Alrighty, welcome to episode 245 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Tesla has begun to introduce unsupervised robotaxi rides in Austin, Texas. While only a small number of Austin's robotaxis are currently unsupervised, Tesla's head of AI, Ashok Ellaswamy, has stated that the ratio of unsupervised vehicles will increase over time. And that was this week's news. Indeed it was, and once again welcome to the program. And as is customary, if there is anyone who is new and is comfortable in doing so, please unmute and say hello. Or perhaps a little bit later in the program. Alrighty, I mean that obviously wasn't the only bit of news. There's sort of news that's swirling around. So obviously most of us will have heard that in the United States, or should I say probably in North America, Tesla has announced or has stopped supplying cars with autopilot included. And it's quite a controversial move. Now that is something that is not yet happening in Australia. So for anyone that's contemplating buying a car, well, right now, or sorry, ordering a car right now, because you don't have to actually buy it immediately. I'll just bring up Tesla's website, and there's a very easy way of checking to see if autopilot's included, apart from actually ringing Tesla. And the way you do that is you get onto, if we go vehicles, sorry, this thing's just being a pain. You can do it. Okay, so if we say order a Model Y, and we're in WA, it doesn't matter where you are, and you get a price, and then you can see it's a drive away price, and if you view the breakdown, no, that's not where you see it. Sorry, you see it under details, which is at the bottom. Show pricing details. And you'll notice autopilot included. So that means if you were to order this car or a Model 3 today, autopilot is absolutely included, which is not what our North American friends see. In their details, it says traffic aware cruise control is included. So it's a bit of a controversial move, which we in Australia don't have to worry about today. But that's not to say that a similar move won't come to this market.
Will you still be able to purchase FSD outright, or would it be a subscription base after the 14th?
That's been it's probably going to be subscription after the 14th, because there's no indication of anything different. So short of directly contacting a staff member, a sales staff member, I'm not even sure if they're going to know. I would go on the presumption that it's not going to be for sale on the 15th of February, and you then need to make your decision as to whether you think it's worthwhile buying it. And it's, to be honest, everyone's situation is different. I think some people may want to buy it because they realise that we're all dumb humans and we write off sunk costs very quickly, but bemoan ongoing, let's call it running costs. Although financially, I think there was an analysis done by CERN Basher. Now it was in US dollars, but really it does basically translate to Australian dollars in any case, because the numbers are slightly different, but the ratios are pretty much identical. And in that, if you keep your car, depending on your rate of return on investment, on the presumption that you, rather than getting the $10,100, you invested in something useful, because you have that choice. You can either invest it in FSD as a capital item, or you can do something else with it. Putting it under your bed is probably the worst thing you can do. So his analysis was the break-even point, presuming that the cost is the same. But having said that, Elon Musk has said in the United States, so you've got to understand that a lot of tweets that Elon Musk makes are US centric, because that's where FSD is closest to becoming unsupervised, and robotaxis being launched. He did state that the price of the subscription would increase as the features of FSD unsupervised, when it transitioned to unsupervised, whereby you could text and drive or fall asleep in your car, not supervising it, then the cost of the FSD subscription would go up. But in any case, it's a bit of a line ball thing. I don't think in the long term it may be slightly more expensive to have a subscription model than having purchased it. But on the other hand, there's a few risks. Which is a little bit like owning a Model S or a Model X, if you write off your Model S or Model X, there is no replacement, because you can't buy one in Australia. Should you own a car with FSD purchased and it's written off, Tesla will not allow you to subsequently buy FSD on your replacement vehicle, or give it to you with FSD enabled. So in a sense, what you're insuring, well, all you can insure against is the money, I guess. And I don't think most insurance companies don't actually count FSD as a capital item. That all you can do is increase its agreed value and pay for it. So anyway, the short answer is no one really quite knows. You can't be entirely certain, but we'll certainly see you by the 15th of February.
Yeah, can I jump in there?
Yeah, sure, John.
I've been speaking to Tesla that Osmond Park the last couple of days. In Australia, you can still purchase FSD outright until the 31st of March, and provided you purchase it, or if you're purchasing a new vehicle, you receive that vehicle by the 31st of March, or you make the purchase prior to and received by 31st of March. So it's been extended in Australia. So that was Australia-wide, I guess, internal announcement within Tesla, which they shared with me verbally and via text. And that was...
Sorry, so just clarify that. So just to be perfectly clear, let's say you've ordered an inventory car. Sorry, no, you've ordered a car, and you choose to add FSD prior to delivery. That'll be okay at any time, I presume. So, for example, in this car...
As long as you receive the car by the 31st of March.
Harold, I can chime in on that as well. I rang up, and that's the information I was given as well. I didn't know how reliable that information was, so I didn't want to say anything. But considering John has brought it up, seems like there's one other person that's been given that same information. So I suppose from two different sources, I suppose both are Tesla sources, but 31st of March. My question was whether that applies to second-hand vehicles or just new ones, and seems like it's just new vehicles, but haven't had any clarification on that.
So if you look in the order page, so this is for a Model Y, you can see if you tick if you select this box, whoops, unfortunately this computer's very slow. If you select this, that then increases your purchase price I would have to be fairly confident that if you've done that, which is not what you should do, you should always buy it after you receive it because it will affect your stamp duty and possibly luxury car tax threshold. But if you select it here at time of order, then that must be shipped to you. Otherwise, I'll be in breach of the order contract.
There are some cars in inventory that say FSD included, and
Yep.
they're discounted by. It says on the page about $1,700, but the $1,700 does not take into account the extra stamp duty, so it's probably closer to, I don't know, $1,200 or something like that.
Yep.
But yeah, so there are a few cars in inventory with FSD included, and you're still ahead after the extra stamp duty, but only marginally.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so I think if you tick the box and your car is delivered in 6 weeks' time or 12 weeks' time or whatever, provided you've ticked the box and you've entered into a contract with Tesla, it's probably almost impossible for Tesla to retrospectively say, well, actually, we've changed our policy and we're not going to abide by that contract. That is a contract. Notwithstanding, Pete, you and I have other contracts for cars that never arrived and could never have arrived. But I think if you tick the box and are prepared to pay stamp duty and risk that luxury car tax, I think they will have to have delivered it to you with that enabled. But clearly, if it's an inventory car that's second hand, if it was one that was slightly used, and it's got FSD, I doubt Tesla would evaporate the FSD later. That should still be sold with whatever it's got now, as it exists now. But certainly you could never buy it afterwards, after the 14th of February. Well, sorry, perhaps we're saying now the 31st of March. So does that mean, so John, were you saying that if you had bought the car and you have a car, which however way you bought it, if you then chose to purchase FSD outright, you've got until the 31st of March and not the 14th of February?
Yeah, that's how I understand it. You can buy it. It can be as part of the purchase or post purchase. You can actually still buy it outright up to the 31st of March. That's how I understand it.
Yep. Okay, well, I guess the thing we know for absolute certain is you can always buy it up until the 14th of February regardless. Like, that's an absolute commitment. Then after that, let's just say you can probably purchase it. But I think you can always purchase it no matter when it arrives on their website. If you've ticked that full self-driving box and you've placed an order, even if it's for something exotic like a Performance Model Y that isn't going to come until April or whenever, I think it's highly unlikely that Tesla would renege on that item.
Yeah,
it wouldn't make sense. It just wouldn't make sense.
they'd have to abide by the contract that you've paid for. That was like when I bought my
Yes.
Performance and premium connectivity was included. And then they try to say, oh, no. And I'm like, no, it was the contract. So
Indeed.
it
There's
still is.
possibly a difference between what happened to Pete and I, whereby we didn't get the whole car,
Yeah.
any part of the car. But obviously, if they abide by part of the contract, they've basically got to abide by all of it. And look, if anyone was in a situation where they had ticked that box and that was denied to them later, even though it forms part of the sale price, you'd have a great argument to say, hey, let's get this sorted in another arena under Australian consumer law. Alrighty. So that's the So that's the autopilot thing. We don't know when autopilot may not be present in new cars, but again, at the moment, it is definitely included. And in fact, from memory, when you get your invoice, it actually has all of these inclusions. It actually says what's included. And again, as long as it says autopilot at the time of when you ordered it, then that will be what you'll receive. But be prepared, like has happened with the Model Y, when there was a time, I think it was in the United States, whereby they removed the ultrasonic sensors on Model Ys, possibly Model 3s as well. And no, actually it was Model Ys. But that removal of those sensors was delayed by quite a few months in Australia. So I guess the bad news is that if autopilot's been removed from new cars in the States, it's highly likely to be removed in Australia at some stage in the future. So then people will be left with, well, basically nothing compared to everything. It's full self-driving. In which case you would then have to, if you don't buy it now, would have to purchase it for $149 a month. But who knows? Tesla sometimes does do things in different markets. They do things differently. Like, I think Australia is still the only market that has a 5-year warranty.
They'll have to bring it back, surely. Like, there's going to be too much pushback, even in the US, I think, like, for sales, unless April comes around and they start pumping out these taxis, 10,000 a month, apparently, the first of all, the month of April. That's what they're aiming for.
Yeah. Well, actually, they wouldn't be aiming for 10,000 a month, because I think the proposed federal adjustments, or the proposed adjustments to the exemption number per annum that a car maker can get, currently is 2,500 vehicles without wing mirrors and steering wheels and other controls, and that's currently limited to 2,500. The proposal is to increase that limit per annum to 70,000. So of course, Tesla would, well, they couldn't. I mean, they could build more than 70,000 robotaxis a year, but they would have to fit more than the bit that was greater than 70,000. They'd have to fit them with steering wheels, pedals, and wing mirrors
Or an
to
Xbox
comply.
controller.
Not sure. You'd have to look at the rules whether a Xbox controller meets the criteria of a steering wheel and pedals. Because, for example, the wing mirror thing has to be mirrors. It can't be small screens in a similar location inside the cabin with the image on the screens formed by a rear-facing camera in America. In other jurisdictions, it's perfectly okay, but not in the States. So I dare say steering wheel probably means a steering wheel, or something that spins around. Doesn't have to be a circle.
You think Tesla's really going to stand on their back foot and be like, definitely, we're not bringing it back. We're going to keep it this way permanently. Tough. You live with it. Basically going Microsoft / iPhone or Apple route. Subscription based is the future.
Yeah, and sadly, everything's going to be rented, not bought. That's what almost everything is. All software, all services, accounting software, nearly anything that software you used to always buy, and now you can almost buy none of it at all. Almost none. So, look, in my opinion, they should definitely have autopilot. Well, it shouldn't be autopilot. It should be a nobbled version of FSD as the default product. There might be a time, as I said 1 or 2 episodes ago, we're kind of in a bit of a transition phase between where FSD and self-driving cars is very, very new, and it's expensive and it's exotic. But in the next 10 years, it'll probably turn around to becoming effectively mandatory in all newly sold vehicles. in which case its cost will be zero.
Look,
So we may be in this phase where you can buy it for 10,100, rent it for 149 a month, possibly increasing to 200 or 250 a month in a year or two's time. But then that will then probably approach towards costing nothing in the years following that, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years.
they must have something on the horizon because even US owners that currently own Teslas, if they go out and look at purchasing a new one, they're not just going to want one with TAC or traffic aware
No,
cruise.
no, so they're gonna have to make a decision. Is TAC enough, or do I just subscribe $99
Yeah,
US a month?
bite the
Uh,
bullet.
and and the thing is, I did hear Kyle Connor. He's with Out of Spec reviews and a whole series of YouTube channels. His Model 3 that he got, he called it the Model 3 Premium rear wheel drive. That his lease payment was only $300 a month, and he was saying that it costs an extra 99 for FSD. So that's an extra 33% of a lease
So,
payment.
oh, I was thinking about that. What happens when the car, because if it eventually gets to unsupervised, would that mean it falls under a different insurance? And could you
Yes,
write off the insurance for the subscription in savings?
only if you use it for the purpose of making an income. If you are an
Or it might,
individual, if you're an individual,
yeah,
the only way you can write off a subscription is the proportion of the use of the vehicle that is intended to produce income, because it's not a tax deductible asset unless
right.
it's income producing. If it's in a business, that's different. But if it's a personal thing, it's like saying if you pay a subscription for something that happens to your house that you live in, you can't deduct that off your tax unless part of your house is used for the purpose of producing an income, such as getting advanced internet or something like that. And you could say, well, I'm putting on an Airbnb and I'm renting out a room, so it needs its own NBN broadband or something. Then and that's a subscription. Then that would work, but as a tax deduction. But you'd also have to pay tax on the income that that room got. So same with your
Mm,
car. If your car is in the robotaxi fleet, and again, I think we said this last week, there's no distinction between paying a monthly subscription for FSD. Let's call it now unsupervised. There's no difference between paying $149 a month for that and putting your car on Tesla's robotaxi fleet for an amount of money or an amount of revenue, or paying no subscription for FSD and putting it on their platform. Tesla will merely extract a pro rata amount of that FSD revenue as part of the withholdings it has when you earn money, because it doesn't matter one way or the other to Tesla. I'm certain that Tesla will allow cars that don't have FSD to join the robotaxi fleet, because for the time it is in robotaxi mode, it'll have FSD enabled. And maybe Tesla will just give you a lesser cut of the total revenue to compensate for the lack of the $149 a month or whatever it becomes in the coming years once it's fully unsupervised.
what do you think of the Australian candidate to be the next on the robo taxi networks?
Oh, you
Like
mean
being deployed?
Australia to be next, or
Yes. Like deploying, say, like a handful in Melbourne.
look, it could happen.
What I was thinking.
There's nothing stop. Look, there's nothing. Well, actually,
Because
You know when
there's
we got that
literally nothing.
update?
There's nothing stopping Tesla doing what they do in San Francisco Bay Area, which is effectively an Uber service, a rideshare service with a person behind the steering wheel. at the moment, I think that's what would be required in Australia because we don't yet have the framework. But having said that, Waymo has already announced that it is looking at bringing their unsupervised service into Australia. And I think they actually specified they were talking about negotiating with the New South Wales government. So that could be done on a state by state basis because at the moment, Australia has not yet got a uniform federal framework that's been ratified by the states. So I guess, so certainly Tesla could do the same as Waymo if it chose to and get a license or permission to have a supervised, either driver supervisors, you can do that anyway, it's just an Uber service. You could have a driver in the passenger seat as a supervised thing with permission, and you could have unsupervised with permission. But currently that would be on a state-by-state basis. You can't say Australia agrees yet because Australia does not yet have that structure. But you could certainly go state to state, and I mean, who knows? You could approach Western Australia and see if they wanted to do it here. And Tesla could just do it with Model Ys easily, or Model 3s for that matter, but Model Ys, as they've already done. There's no need to bring the robotaxi because, after all, for at least the first few years, Tesla will be busy building robotaxis just for the North American market.
Yeah.
You know,
Actually, the state or the jurisdiction where it would make the most sense would actually be Perth or WA, because we seem to have the most standardized roads and road rules. So, I mean, we don't have Melbourne's hook turns. We don't have, some of the weed and wonderful things that they have in Sydney or what have you. We don't have anywhere near the congestion and the traffic that they do in some of those other cities. We don't have toll booths. We don't have, ferries. So, for all intents and purposes, it's a much simpler market to run a pilot program in.
Mm.
yeah, I guess so. But I mean, yeah,
Yeah, because I was wondering, with the the robotaxi line, you need to get your money back from it because it's only 90,000 that if that gets through in America, that's 90,000, and that line's for a couple of mil.
70,000.
Has it changed?
I thought it was 70.
No, 90.
Oh, okay. Sorry, 90. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies. 90.
Because I was thinking, even 90 is not enough. But so I'm wondering, how a few countries like Australia sells, we got the Robotaxi app, and I'm wondering if they ramp it up, and then they just flood, like, since there's no left and right hand, actually just send it to the different markets that they've opened it up, given the app to sort of stuff. I sort of wonder if that would have been their plan, so they don't slow down, they just pick it up.
Yeah, and shockingly, although it's really distorted, the third largest city in America is Chicago with 2.7 million inhabitants. Well, Perth is 2.5-ish, approaching
Yeah,
2.5 approximately.
Yeah,
So, but the thing is, that's because San Francisco is a city, but then there's the whole Bay Area is really a megalopolis. It's really just continuous urban development. It's just that they call each different area a different city. So really, and like even New York, I think was described as only having 8 million people, but that's probably just Manhattan or whatever the city of New York is. But everything adjacent to it, it has a population of in excess of 25 million in that area. And the Bay Area is probably similar, and around Los Angeles is probably similar as well. So, but if you take the argument that, I think Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane are larger than are in the top two of the US top population cities. So if you just say, well, all Tesla wants to do is just make money from robotaxis. Well, then it doesn't matter where in the world they go, because as soon as they arrive, they'll be making money. The only thing, Paul, is you did say that, we have the robotaxi app. There is also that very logical reason, which is if you are a visitor, if you're a tourist, an Australian tourist, well, you would want to be able to use the robotaxi app on your iPhone, and eventually on your Android, and not have to change your region and all that sort of stuff just to use it as a tourist. So just because the robotaxi app is in wider international access doesn't necessarily mean that that's the next place where Tesla will target a robotaxi. But actually,
Yeah.
like you say, they could, because they just need to get it homologated into Australia and just start deploying them with permission from each state government or agreement until there is a national framework. Yeah, and look, it would certainly enhance Tesla's standing as being multinational with their robotaxi service. And I guess in one sense, they don't need to necessarily wait to conquer America. They could just sprinkle it all over the place and get that diversity of experience. But yeah, it's possible.
I mean, that'd be an irony. We get cybercabs before we get a Cybertruck.
Oh, don't. We've only got about 2 more months before my bet lapses.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, and actually, speaking of which, so if I'll try and bring up Wes is I forget his surname, but he is the top Cybertruck engineer, and he did have a reply. That it was a very strange reply talking about Cybertrucks coming into Australia. So I'll just try and
Oh,
bring that up. Um,
strange reply.
so it replies. It basically said something. Someone said, sorry, 2 seconds. Oh, here we go. Um, Someone, hopefully, there were Cybertrucks being delivered to the UAE. Oh, here we go. So someone says, mate, did that just work? Here we go. Mate, what about us in Australia and New Zealand, right-hand markets? And Wes said, might have to wait 23 more years to get the left-hand drive exemption if the Aussie rules don't change. Now,
Does he does he
that
mean 23 months? Not years?
no, well, but it doesn't even make sense,
No.
because what is implying is that Tesla cannot or will not supply a Cybertruck in a right-hand drive configuration. And like we've mentioned many times in the past, there are only three things that Tesla needs to change to get the Cybertruck in a right-hand drive configuration, and that is to move the force feedback virtual steering wheel or steering wheel module from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, basically swap the glove box with the steering wheel and just move the pedals over, and also change the cut in the windscreen to have a notch in the right-hand side rather than the left-hand side, and obviously move the wiper motor to the driver's side, and then possibly do a minor modification to some replaceable parts in the mega casting or the mega casting mold to have a recess for that wiper motor. So, and none of those tasks are difficult, considering that things like the F-150 and all the Dodge Rams and all that sort of stuff, they are all made in left-hand drive configuration, and they have steering shafts, and they are taken to places like Walkinshaw and others to have $30,000 worth of conversion done to them, whereby they have to strip out the entire dash and everything gets changed. They move the aircon systems and everything. It's a whole disaster. Whereas a Cybertruck, Tesla can just do this in their factory. Also bearing in mind that Tesla build vastly fewer, than 25,000 Cybertrucks a quarter, because they build a whole 25,000 combined Cybertrucks Model S's and Model X's. So it's not like Tesla's too busy to do a minor modification to a layout of a Cybertruck. So I don't quite get what Wes is on about, and to say wait another 23 years for Australia to change its rules on having an exemption on left-hand drive brand new cars, the reply makes no sense on any level. So the only logical thing to say there is it's probably best just to discount the reply, just ignore it. The other thing too is, currently on Tesla's website, the Cybertruck is still there as being able to get more information on. Now, if Wes was right, and it was another 23 years, if that was legitimate, like if that was somehow a thing, and again, it doesn't make sense. Why? What did someone in the Australian government say? No, mate, we'll wait till 2040 something, or sorry, whatever 23 years is from now, 2050, before we were going to change the left-hand drive rule. I mean, that again, it just doesn't make sense. But that transaction was out there, and it's made a few people unhappy. But I wouldn't put too much store on it, to be brutally honest, because, like I said, Tesla needs all the Cybertruck sales it can get, because they've spent however many billions of dollars on the production line, and no doubt, I don't know if they have like half a shift working on it or whatever, because the design capacity was in excess of 125,000 per annum, and they're probably lucky to make 30,000 per annum, probably. So they'd be very much understaffed, and a lot of that gigafactory space with all the robots and everything else would be very much underutilized. And as we know, all that capital has already been spent and is being expensed and depreciated, and that just makes the gross margin on the Cybertrucks even worse than it already is. Alrighty. Any positive questions or comments on something that's better news?
I switched the Model 3 into sport mode today. My son didn't like it. He said it upsets my stomach.
Maybe.
Well,
Is that a performance?
No, it's an old Model 3, but I've got the speed boost, so it's halfway to a performance.
Oh,
And I
What's
don't.
that for?
I drive it in chill most of the time.
that's still 4.7, isn't it? 0 to 100?
3.9.
3.9. I'm thinking Model Y, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's a 3. So yeah, I don't put it in sport often, but I needed to nip out across 4 lanes without a central reservation. So I pressed the right scroll wheel and said sport mode, and it accepted it straight away. And then I just tapped the accelerator. And even my neck wasn't, because I can't remember the last time I put it in sport mode. So totally unnecessary, but oh God, it's fun. That's why I'm glad.
yeah.
I'm glad performance models are 100,000. I just don't want to, because I have to buy one otherwise.
Well, Elon Musk did say about the impending Roadster, which may or may not be revealed on the 1st of April. He said that it's sometimes good to know that things you don't need can be built. They don't necessarily should be built, but sometimes it's just nice to know that humans can make interesting things just for the sake of it. So, and look, take it from many of us, you get used to it pretty quickly. And the thing is, you say you drive around in chill mode, I would just rely on your right foot to know what to do. So you just put it in standard mode, and if you're feeling relaxed and chilled, then your right foot just makes small movements, and because you never quite know where absolutely booting it and using all the power the car can make could be a lifesaver, or
Absolutely.
or make a big difference between a near miss to a terrible T-boning or something similar. Yeah, I just rely on your right foot to do the right thing, as
So here's a
controlled by
question
your.
then.
Yep.
So if you're driving in, so mine only has chill and sport, right?
Yep.
And I presume it has the sport because I've got that speed boost or something. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. So if you're just cruising along, at 60 in sport versus cruising along at 60 in chill, will you chew more juice or not?
Nope.
No,
Not at all.
No, same
No,
thing.
zero. No.
exactly.
So
Okay.
it's literally, so it's not like you can't relate it to, say, perhaps upping the tune of your
No, all good.
fossil fuel
Yeah.
car. Yeah, it's just the throttle response. And to be honest, well, I haven't tried the experiment because
Mm.
I look, I've tried chill just once, just to see.
Wasted on.
I don't
Mm.
know whether the first third of the throttle is the same, because that would make sense to make most of the sort of normal driving the same feel, and only the upper two-thirds of your throttle having a different curve to it. Yeah, look, I would just leave it in sport. And it's funny because people talk about, oh, my car gets better or worse efficiency if it's in autopilot or not, or on tack or not, and I mean, the
It's
main
much of a
principle,
muchness.
it's much of a muchness, and there are many other factors you can do to improve it. So, some people will wax lyrical about how they get better efficiency with all these weird techniques, and yet they'll do something like take their aero covers off and have just the spokes showing. Well, that right there just costs you 4 or 5% every day. So, yeah, I wouldn't overthink it.
I was
Just
just
Still,
interested, that's all, because I'm
just
familiar with the batteries from my drone days, but I just wondered how it
yeah.
worked on a Tesla.
So, and I mean, there are certain principles. If you really did need to hypermile, just going slower to a certain degree makes a big
Yeah.
difference, up to a limit. But also not having excessive acceleration and deceleration, on the presumption that the deceleration is regeneration,
Yeah.
because large current flowing either way into your battery is dissipating heat, and that's lost forever. So, a steady throttle and steady speed, or more steady acceleration and deceleration, or mild acceleration and deceleration is the best. But again, your right foot knows what to do, and by having it in sport mode, you're giving yourself that 1 in 1,000 chance of it
Absolutely.
being beneficial.
Yep.
And because you won't have time to press a scroll wheel and say sport mode if an
Exactly.
ambulance is going through an intersection, and you need to accelerate faster to miss it, or
have you
have
ever
it
done
miss
that?
you.
Have you ever done that, Harold? Gone from chill mode, hold your
No,
foot flat, and go to dynamics and hit sport while your foot's still holding it flat.
no, because I just leave it in sport mode the whole time.
I know,
Um,
but so you've never done that. You never done that.
no,
I have
Done it,
that
and
because
I've done
it's
it, and
pretty,
it feels pretty cool. But
doesn't it?
yeah, but
Because it's like, oh, why am I in chill? And while you're holding it, you just like dynamics sport, and then all of a sudden it's like, I guess it's like when Harrison Ford in Star Wars hits like the light speed button. I don't know. It's like weird. It kicks in as it accepts the software. It's hard to describe.
So here you go. I'm now going to show why you guys are nuts, because you're so keen on the FSD, and that isn't going to hammer it around in sport mode.
no,
No, no,
no.
We
exactly.
don't even get sport or track mode in the new ones.
Nope,
Yeah.
nope. But there is a difference, because FSD when working well, it's like you're being chauffeured, and you're in a sense
Oh
somewhat
yeah,
detached from
yeah,
the drudgery of having to do the driving, and you can sort of be more relaxed because you don't really worry about the speed per se. Look, unless you're running very, very late, and then that's obviously different. But the great thing is FSD is optional, not mandatory at this stage.
yep,
So you can absolutely get that manual driving thrill out of your system for the times you want to do that. But and look, make no mistake, at the moment, the and it sounds like it is a first world problem. The most painful thing about FSD is the only way to use it properly is you've got to give it a destination. And the
yeah,
other pain with it is having given it a destination, I can't tell you how many different routes it has taken to do the last 2 kilometers to my place, or 1.5 kilometers. There's a bit of a grid sort of to my place, and it's gone to the east, to the west, it's gone relatively straight to zigzags to all sorts of weird, and that you just never know. It's just the the navigation system just for whatever reason deciding that's the best way to go today, and that can be a little bit frustrating because there's no easy way to say no. I just want you to keep going forwards. Like if it was like a button that says no, don't turn, just go straight, then that'd be great. So
yeah,
FSD isn't for everyone all the time, because if you militantly insist on using FSD every single time, it can become a dreary thing to have to do, or frustrating to some extent.
Have you
yeah.
got
And
your
I think.
settings?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're right. I was going to say, is Harold, you got your settings set down to like save 1 minute?
Yep.
What about if you put that to 10 minutes? Will that change your routing?
I need my 9 minutes back.
Well,
I was going to
does
say
it take
actually,
does it
because
take more than 10 minutes to take that route to your place?
No. It's only just the last little. It's literally the last mile. Literally,
So if it was set to 10 minutes, would it be a consistent route?
don't know. And the problem too
well,
is it's a route that's been plotted by TomTom using Open Maps
yep,
with
Oh
Google
boy.
data, with
Oh,
probably with Google traffic data. Um, so you never quite know which bit it's picking, and you can sometimes get that weird anomalies. You can imagine possibly someone riding a bicycle very slowly, or something like that, with their mobile phone, and Google may interpret that as a car going slowly. So it may then in the speed profile data artificially be pessimistic about one part of that route, which then gets the car to pick another one. So there's all these, and I think there was some guy that did a study, or I think it was a study. They got a bus full of mobile phones and drove it really, 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 really slowly on some freeway, either in Europe or in America. I forget exactly where it was. And they actually then got all of those navigation systems to get the cars to jump off that section of freeway and go on all the back roads, because the concentration of mobile phones on this bus or whatever it was sufficient to move the needle significantly enough to change all the navigation routes for all these people. So, yeah, I don't know what it is, but that's one of the annoying things of FSD. So that's
yes,
sometimes where you'll just click off and just keep driving straight. Because on FSD, if you don't set a route, it will usually go forward straight until it doesn't, and then it will often just take a left-hand corner. Usually takes a left-hand turn,
yep.
sort of just at the next intersection, whatever, for whatever reason it thinks it wants to do that. So
I
you
mean,
can't really drive it without a navigation route, and having to set a route every single time, even if you want to go just round the corner to get some milk or something. Like I said, in the first world, it's a bit of a problem.
and
It can be a
I
pain.
think we're talking about the biggest failing of the Tesla at the moment, in my opinion, is this navigation concoction. Let's call it that. because my car, 2022 hardware 3, I have actually done the test of changing it from 1 to 20-minute delay. It makes absolutely no difference, and it seems to take the most random wiggly route that it can to get to something. And this is with just manual driving, so you know the way to get to somewhere. Like today, we came from Dalkeith to Carrinup, and what a wiggly way it took. And I appreciate West Coast Highway at 4 o'clock's getting a bit chockers, but it was like 1 minute, and I've got it set only save time for greater than that, right? So, but it takes the wiggly route up through the back streets, up Duke Street and Selby Street and all those wiggly ways. And you think,
Yeah.
what? And every time I've tested it, it makes no difference changing it. And it's just horrible.
You can get that. I think it was the Waze effect where you get a lot of cars going up rat runs
Yes.
in suburbia because it's calculated that's the quickest, and even if it may only be a minute quicker, and it could be longer,
Yes.
often longer and tortured, but technically quicker. I mean, the thing is that a more pleasant journey? I mean, a lot of humans are really dumb as far as how we perceive things. So often, people will be in a bit of a traffic jam, so then they'll dart off and do a long, elaborate detour, which if you could do the experiment and have a car next to you and that car just does the standard route and you do your rat run, you'll probably invariably find often you take longer, but you feel better because you're always moving. And, we think that if we're moving, we're progressing. So,
and it doesn't seem to take into account school zones when it's going through the back streets.
Not well, no. Not that well.
So, you're at the wrong time and you're at a school zone, that wipes out any slight change of not going there. As I say, the US guys, because I follow their comments as well, they're just as frustrated with OpenStreetMaps over there as we are here. I don't know. I don't know whether it's because it's just cheap for Tesla or something, but it's horrible. It's the worst thing of the car. If I had to say of anything, it's the worst thing about the car. The actual knowing where everything is that you've selected in your search. The search is great. You can put half a name of something and it finds it. But the route it then takes is the random thing.
Yeah, indeed. And that's hopefully something that when we get subsequent versions of FSD, which again, by the way, we should almost have a counter running how many weeks or days it's been since we've had 0 software updates for FSD since September or or August when it came out.
29th of August.
29th of August, there you go.
Yeah,
so
counting.
That's a long time.
Really?
That's a long time.
We should mention that all these sort of concerns that we have now as to, which route it takes and, which turns it makes to get somewhere and whether it takes traffic into account, school zones into account, etc. A lot of that is a sort of a transitional issue for the time being, because once we get FSD unsupervised proper, and you're on your phone or you're watching a movie or you're engrossed in your emails or what have you, you won't even know which route it took. You'll just, all of a sudden you'll get the some sort of audible alert to let you know that you've arrived, and you'll look up and go, oh, I'm here already. I better shut my laptop and
it's exactly right. A lot of these arguments are all about this annoying transition period. And it's a total game changer when it becomes unsupervised. It's a completely different world, definitely.
Yeah.
But just in the meantime, it's annoying.
Yeah.
It's absolutely 100%.
By the way, that's nearly 22 weeks. So it's 152 days and counting.
Mike, you're
you got
just
one
taking all
timer
them.
for the change of the flipping update of the maps as well? Because I think you were saying last week, Harold, that's nearly a year or something now.
So it's week 8. So it was 2025.8. So we are in 2026.4, I guess. So
something like that, yeah.
If it's similar, the thing too is I don't recall when we got the update. The update was its version is 2025.8, which implies, let's call it the end of February. But that's not necessarily when we all got the update. It could have been a month after that. It's
Yeah, I
just
think
that,
mine was March-ish, early March-ish, I think.
yeah. So if Tesla goes on an annual cadence, then I guess it puts it at March. But there's nothing to say that it's necessarily they have an entry in their calendar that says it's been a year, let's do another one. Sometimes I think there have been times when there's been a couple in a year, but otherwise other years there obviously hasn't. So we'll only know this stuff in hindsight, unfortunately.
We'll just keep training the stack for now.
If that's what we're doing, yeah,
Who knows?
I don't
Taking all
know.
those Warren runs and all the Mike taking all the Zeds all the way home.
The thing is,
Zigzag.
we know Cortex 2 is being built, but it's nowhere near finished. Nowhere
And
near
then
finished.
it'll just get turned about. Like maybe they'll stick to the US a fair bit, and then they'll be like, right, stick Australian training data through it this month, and
Well,
then
that's
back to
right.
the US again.
Yes, and they've got other jurisdictions to do as well. So clearly, the longer that they make us wait, the more certain it is that we're going to get a version 14, because it literally just doesn't make sense to do to anything else, because it's just wasting time. You're not learning anything from training an old model or training an old version of software. So we will probably most likely get, well, we will, it's all but certain we're going to get version 14. It's just not certain we're going to get it this quarter. Or who knows how long they're going to make us wait. Is Tesla's opinion, well, they've got good enough, near enough at the moment. They got vastly more than they had ever, and that'll keep us happy enough for the time being. Don't know.
I think it has something to do with the 14th of February myself. That's just a hunch I'm getting. It's like Elon knows something that nobody else knows, and he's going to release a new update, and that's going to be next level or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the only thing with that is Australia needs its own training data, and a lot of it is synthetic data, because we just don't have enough kilometers driven on Australian roads to get the proper data. So if we were just a tweaking or a modification of American training data, like effectively telling it, yeah, but just do everything on the other side of the road, that would be plausible. But it's absolutely true that the FSD we have in our cars, the proper FSD, supervised, that is done with specifically Australian data and training. Obviously done in Cortex 1 in Fremont, I presume, I think. Oh, no, sorry. Sorry, maybe
Cortex.
Texas. Sorry, Texas.
Cortex is
It's
Texas.
Cortex and Colossus.
No, Colossus is XAI. Totally different.
Oh, yeah.
Totally different. Totally different. Yeah, you got to get this. So Colossus is a homage to one of the
Cortex.
world's first computers, which was called Colossus, built probably during the Second World War. I don't think it's the first. I think that might have been ENIAC, but I could be wrong too. But it's one of the early.
It was the English one. Built
The
in
English
Britain.
one.
Yep.
Yep. So that was the original Colossus. But it looks like, so that's what XAI is going. They're just doing Colossus 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, whatever, and Tesla is using Cortex, bit like your cerebral cortex. But their second one is nowhere near finished yet, although they're building it quickly.
So it just gets turned about. So basically, US gets all the turns at the moment.
Yeah, I think they're doing nothing but hammering all that hardware to do better and better revisions of version 14, bearing in mind that the robo taxis are using one or two versions of 14 that are better or different. So I think that's what, yeah. So clearly they must have squeezed some training space for Australia, and China,
Oh
but nowhere else. And they might have done another version for Europe, because there are some subtle differences in Europe with street signs and formats of signs. Although having said that, New Zealand has different formats of signs than Australia as well, but that's under the one package. So, yeah, but clearly, that'd be a great question. I'd love to. I wish that'd be. Well, actually, so by the way, tomorrow morning, I don't quite remember the time. I think it might be
5:30.
Is it 5:30?
Yep.
Is it?
Let me just fact check that, because I do
There's
have
no daylight saving, so
the answer to that is
market
Car
closes
sales
at
down.
5.
6:30 Perth time.
Ultra.
So, yeah, so it's tomorrow at 6:30.
Well, that would be awesome because that's an extra hour of sleep. But
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is,
pretty
Pete.
sure.
I did check it, yes, because
Okay.
it was actually posted up on IR Tesla on Investor
Oh,
Relations website as 4:30 Central Time.
sorry, we're talking about two different things. So you're talking about the earnings call. I was talking about
Yes.
the release of the earnings results, which is
Oh,
yeah.
don't forget the
No.
release. Oh, yeah, I don't care about that. I mean,
Okay.
we can read it if we want to, but you just got to listen to what
But
Muskie says.
that's what moves the market. But
Oh,
then-
yes, yeah.
then
But the market would have been closed by then anyway.
the
So
after hours
Yeah.
market.
yeah, exactly.
So what's your best guess on what's going to happen? Car sales down, energy storage up.
Oh, that's a
yeah,
foregone conclusion.
we already know.
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, that's right. And I
And
think
the
some
media will
people.
miss the battery storage part and just take the car sales down and run with it.
That's right. The stories will be car sales down, Tesla's not arresting the decline, blah, blah, blah. Earnings are down. It's a miss on earnings. Some people were speculating that they might go cash flow negative, but I don't know. So who knows? But we might as well find. There's no point worrying about it because it's only a transient phase. Because again, what will move the market? Actually, I think what's his name? Kramer. Jim. Is it?
Oh yeah.
What's his name? Kramer. Jim. Is it Jim Kramer?
The guy from
yeah.
CNBC.
Yeah, and you used to go. What was it called? Contra
inverse.
Kramer. You used to go inverse Kramer.
Inverse.
But now
Kramer,
he's completely flipped. He is saying that Tesla is going to the moon, and once they realize it's not a car company and it's actually a robotics company, it will go to the moon and keep going, which is a bit disturbing because, like I said, originally inverse Kramer was a much better tactic. So what will move the markets? And again, the market, like they say, on average, in the short term they're a voting machine, and long term they're a weighing machine. The problem is at the moment they don't know what they're weighing because they can't see it, and most analysts are trained if you can't see it and have seen, if anything, a history of it succeeding, then you can't or shouldn't count it, and don't dare speculate what might happen. But of course,
it's not that they are trained that way as well. But it's if you're a analyst and you produce a research report and say the stock is valued X, Y, Z, you got to justify how you came to that conclusion. And if you don't have numbers to back up your calculations with, then then it's just speculation. Then the feeling is that the research report isn't really worth the paper it's written on because it's not, backed up by hard data. But how can you have hard data about the future, which is so uncertain? So, and the problem is that all these research reports have got 3, 6, 9, 12-month targets. So it's very hard to know where Tesla will be in 12 months. It's much easier to know where they'll be in 5 years and 10 years' time.
Exactly. and a lot of people and humans are bad at understanding exponential growth and phase changing, whereby a new technology just changes just changes the world wholesale across the board completely, like the internet did, and other things. So
Yeah.
and sadly, as will, Optimus, and not just physical Optimus, but virtual Optimus. The disruption in white collar jobs will be earth shattering. The world has never seen that kind of disruption since the Great Depression.
Well, there's
in
already some I don't know what you call them, AI presences for the word on X, which so people have got a Mac Mini, put Claude Bot, I think it's called, on there or something, made it their own person with their own account. Person's the wrong word. Its own entity with its own account, and because some people are lobbing them onto their own computers and making them interact with everything they've got.
Yep.
And I'm going, mate, if you have to have something like that to tell you you've got an appointment, then you've got a few things on you. And,
Yeah, but
that
what's his name? I do have his name just up here. Oh, I lost it. No, the gentleman that got sacked from XAI, basically saying that we've worked out that we can deploy a virtual Optimus on any number of hardware for Teslas, and pay the owner a little bit of money for power and profit sharing and whatever, and we can deploy millions of these proper agents to do real work. Yeah, like I said, it's no futurist. Any futurist would have to pronounce something that was outlandishly unlikely to our ears, and yet they would be so far out of the money. It's just not funny. We can't imagine what's happening in 10 years' time.
It's interesting that I saw, again, I'm not following it closely, so excuse me if I get this sort of stuff wrong, but there's some sort of, I'll use the word competition loosely, between the major AI latest versions. And Grok's the only one that's made a positive for investing.
No, actually, Claude, no, there was another one that's slightly in front.
It probably changes every day, and I only watch it every so often.
Grok made 8.3%, and this other thing made 8.6%, but it keeps changing sort of daily.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
because the others, when I saw the graph, I think yesterday or the day before, maybe now, Grok was like positive, and all the others were even or negative.
Yeah,
Yeah. And old stupid Apple were going with Gemini, of course, as you might have seen for those of you Apple holders out there.
Yep, as the replacement for Siri, or as the backbone
of or whatever.
Of Siri. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I won't use it.
That's why I haven't updated yet, mate.
Elon's talking every 7 to 9 months changing to the next chip.
So that was a development cycle. No, that was a development cycle. It's not that. Well, I guess if you keep
Optimus, I guess, not necessarily the cars.
No. So what he said. Let me just bring up that. That was last week's news item. So what he said was that AI5 is intended to effectively will basically make FSD perfect, be a perfect driver. That's AI5. That's the design that is all but finished. So in the old days, they call it taping off, and that's all but been finalised. That's the AI5 design, which is not expected to come into proper production until the latter part of next year. That's AI5, but it would also be used to greatly enhance Optimus. And then AI6 will further improve Optimus and be used in data centers. So there'll be less of an impetus to use it in cars, although it certainly will be. And then AI7, which they'll probably use a combination of those to create a Dojo 3, and that'll form the backbone for space-based data centers at the end of the decade. So that's AI 5, 6, and 7. And Elon Musk stated that there would be 9-month development intervals between those chips. It doesn't mean you're going to get them in 9 months' time. It means there'll be a gap of supposedly a gap of 9 months between one coming out and another one coming out. But the actual delay between, like, it's been taped out today, it won't come into proper production until for another 18 months at least. And that's going at lightning speed.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I mean, Elon Musk still talks about, doing a terafab, and that's just another world of pain. That's just mind blowing, and that'll make the $40 billion cash that Tesla has look like a deposit, because that's where there's talk that
They got to do it.
that yeah, they do, and this is akin, because for many of us sitting here now, and many others, the notion that Elon Musk could just declare that, oh, bugger it, we're going to build a terafab bigger than the sum of the rest of the world is just outlandish and difficult and expensive and impossible. Elon Musk and JB Straubel sat in a restaurant and literally on the back of a napkin, and it was a napkin, wrote down how many battery cells they would have to produce to make, I think it was 100,000 cars a year or 200,000. I forget exactly the number. This was before Giga Nevada was built. And they wrote down on the back of an envelope, they worked out that in order to get the number of battery cells they needed for the number of cars they wanted to produce, they would have to produce the same number of 18650 lithium-ion battery cells as the entire world was producing at that time. And they had to do it in one factory. Again, equally outlandish for a single company to profess that they're going to do the same as the entire world. So with the terafab, it's a similar sort of thing. Elon Musk has basically said, well, the rest of the world can't make enough, even if they just made our chips. So therefore, we're probably going to have to build it ourselves. And we're going to have 1 million wafer starts per month, when I think the TSMC and Samsung, I think they might struggle to do 1 million a year, because you do get a fair few chips out of 1 million wafers, because they're pretty big. So that's the level of outlandishness that I guess Elon Musk is accustomed to dealing with. It's no different to proposing that you can have a 30-story building-sized rocket that basically goes into orbit, or part of it goes into orbit, suborbit, and returns back to be reflown, and the second stage goes into orbit and comes back to be reflown, just like an aeroplane. And again, that was and still is a bit outlandish, but he's doing it. So yeah, that's why it's going to be exciting times ahead for Tesla. It's just that these things are going to move slowly, sort of. In hindsight, well, like Elon Musk says, he's good at making the impossible merely late. So for us being keen on it, it looks like it's going slowly. But in hindsight, you think, wow, that was pretty quick. Again, look at Starlink. In 2014, he proposed to have thousands of satellites in low Earth orbit, beaming internet everywhere, using laser links between the satellites, and being able to deliver it at very low cost. I mean, again, that was just unheard of. The total sum of all satellites ever launched were less than a few thousand, ever. And yet now SpaceX launches probably a couple of thousand a year, if not more, every year. And when Starship, which by the way, I think Elon Musk has said may launch in the next, how
6
long,
weeks.
Mike? Is it next few weeks? Maybe
6 weeks.
Well,
6
that's
weeks.
exciting.
6 weeks.
So
Well,
in theory,
it's
it's
been
the
a
first
while.
week of March, but
Yep.
you know,
So no earlier than NET.
no earlier than so
Yep.
net first week of March. But
Yep.
they have a real load of stuff to do on a new everything. So new the Pad 2 has not been finished, anywhere near finished yet. There's been no cryo testing on any of the version 3 ship or boosters. As those who follow it saw, there was an incident this week again on some of the testing. So look, it would have to go, everything would have to go right first time. And that would, to me, leave a bit of residual risk for down the track, because then you've got latent hazards which you haven't discovered during the testing. And that's going to be the case. But look, the reality is you talk about step change. So, and I say this carefully, if and when Starship gets moving, this will change everything, because firstly, data centers will move into orbit, as Elon is saying. You have to go there because the power is the problem.
Yep.
Also, actually, a couple of metals are the problem, which we don't really have enough on. But if they change to non-silicon wafers, which is, I did read this the other day, you can make it in zero gravity, which you can't in, I think it was it Scott Manley who put out the video about,
Yes,
because at the
he
moment
did.
they're all made
Yep.
out of silicon, because you have to do that in gravity. But if you make it using the other metal, in, is it gallium? I'm not sure if
Or
it's gallium.
germanium. Could be
Germanium, maybe. Anyway, whatever it is. So, and you can do that in zero orbit. So once you start getting those decent factories in orbit, making that stuff, and that's probably 3 or 4 or 5 years away, that's when it really starts to take off.
Yeah, and the thing with power is the data centers are so hungry, and they're becoming hungrier. And, you know, we've already just crossed the first gigawatt data center. OpenAI is planning a 1.5 gigawatt data center, expanding to 8 or 40. It was something big, because it was that big project of that supermassive AI data center thing that Trump and Oracle and OpenAI and maybe someone else co-announced. Elon Musk is going to gun for a 10 gigawatt. What's the name? And the thing is, a gigawatt is the size of a sizable city, of a whole city. So you got to, and that's just for one data center. And there's going to be dozens of data centers like this.
Yep.
In America, the limiting factor is power. They can't make it, no matter what,
Yep.
by any source. So, and Elon Musk did actually lament at Davos that solar is the way to go, and you don't need
Yep.
all that much land area. But unfortunately, in America, solar panels are expensive because there's a 100+% tariff on solar cells from China, because he said, rightly so, the Chinese make the cheapest cells.
Yeah,
And really,
you need battery, because the sun goes out twice.
But yes, indeed.
24 hours.
But
And you
the
don't
cells,
really need that in space, right? So it's all good.
no. So, you know, I just looked at the wholesale price of solar cells in WA, and it's 20 cents per watt. Now, the Americans pay more than $1 a watt just in the utility charges to have their solar systems connected. Like the average Australian would be shocked at how expensive a modest solar system is in America. Like, they're paying dozens of thousands of dollars for something that we pay $3,000 for a 5 kilowatt system, or less, 2,000, I think, these days, installed with Chinese solar panels. So the biggest struggle, biggest shortage is power. So they're going to burn whatever they can to make it as hard as they can.
Yeah.
And again, the great thing about space is if you're in that sun synchronous orbit, your satellite is always in the sun, which also means the shady bit's always facing the 3 Kelvin cold sky or cold deep space. So everything becomes easier. You don't need to source lots of water to cool these big data centers down. You just use the coldness of space, and you've got 35% greater illuminance from the sun onto your solar panels.
Yep.
And the great thing for Tesla / SpaceX is they can utilize the Starlink global communications network with laser links as basically the means of getting this data up and down to each satellite.
Can I just chime in with something that I know from the space shuttle program? Is that the issue was one of the biggest issues in orbit is getting rid of heat because you can't use convection or anything like that. So you basically only got infrared. Because I know the payload bay doors had to be open so that it could radiate that heat away. So
yeah, but that's when it was in the sun, Richard. So the issue you're quite right,
which you need.
If so this is the issue people don't get. You guys got it wrong on here a few weeks ago. If you're at as Elon said at Davos, if you were paying attention, if you're at the Terminator, you basically have your solar cells sticking in the sun because there's no atmosphere. It's a sharp turn off. So you have your solar panels in the sun and your radiators, and it's then, because it's minus whatever it is, 130 in the shadows. So that's how they're going to do their cooling over there.
Sorry, this is on the moon?
No.
This is in orbit.
You get a 93 degree inclination orbit, which is.
I didn't know that you could get a Terminator in orbit. I suppose you can.
No. So okay. So the Earth. So it's actually much higher. So this is not a low Earth orbit. This is I wouldn't call it a what do you call it? Geostationary orbit, but actually no, that's right, because I did see a YouTube video whereby you can fill in all these shells. So it's just a 93 degree inclination.
Yes.
So basically the Earth just spins underneath the satellite, and the satellite's just going around, hovering over each pole sequentially, and one side of it is got permanent sunshine, and the other back side is the shade side. Obviously, it's the opposite side,
yep.
And that's permanent coldness. And because it's radiative, the radiation of a black body goes. I hope this is right, by the power of 4 of the temperature difference.
Yes.
So therefore, it's like if you shine an infrared camera to deep space, it must be at 3 Kelvin, because that's what the cosmic microwave background radiation is at.
Yeah, so but the Earth radiates heat to space as well on the dark side even. So it's not quite as cold as you think it's going to be.
Yeah, but you probably edge onto most of that. So you probably have a little. Yeah, I mean, there's things to consider. But SpaceX is already doing this with the Starlink satellites anyway. So I think a Starlink satellite, the largest panels are, I think it might have been 20 kilowatts. And they're talking about 5 times the size, so 100 kilowatts for a 1-ton data center satellite. So it's got 100 kilowatts. And the one thing I do remember with that was that 100 kilowatts earns that satellite, 100 kilowatts of inference earns between $5 and $15 million of revenue per annum.
Ooh.
Which
we put the head around,
which is not bad. Now, if you work it out at 30 cents per kilowatt hour, that cost is about $265,000. So, putting all other costs aside, data centers can be quite lucrative, but of course that ignores water for cooling, because you need to reject the heat, which is why they want to install data centers in places like Greenland and Alaska and other places where you don't need to do a lot of active cooling. You just chuck your water, your coolant loops outside. So the satellites, SpaceX has already got. It was already said that SpaceX has all the technology. It just needs to produce a satellite that's a bit bigger with some more solar panels, remove the phased arrays and all the engineering involved with that, and just put in more chips and use the same optic data links down to the Starlink satellites, and then you've got data centers in space. And the reason why that's good for Tesla is because Tesla will be building the chips. So it'll most likely be Tesla's chips that are then sold to SpaceX to install as data centers in space.
Yeah, right. All
So
right.
just-
Thanks, guys. So I didn't listen to I don't really listen to anything Elon Musk says anymore. So
yeah,
I would have missed it.
Yeah.
Just for your general knowledge, Richard. So if you're totally in the shadow of the Earth, the orbital temperature is minus 170 degrees C.
Yep.
If you're in sunlight for unprotected plates,
I
it's
knew
plus
about the difference,
123 degrees C.
Yep.
So the average, so that's why they have to get rid of it on things that are going round in and out of the sun, because the average is minus 50 to plus 80. So, you know, it's a problem. But yeah, they're going to have this issue for the fuel depots, because obviously, for those of you who don't know, boiling off of the propellants in orbit is an issue. So they basically got to park them in a spot where they don't need massive refrigeration plant on board.
Well, the thing is, I think SpaceX are using Krypton.
No.
Or Xenon.
That's for. So it's Krypton for the Starlink, but this is for orbital maneuvering for larger things like a starship that's an orbital depot.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Of course. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
But
they
can still use the boil off for the thrusters. So it's not a problem maintaining that location.
Yep.
And I'm sure SpaceX know this. I've been in conversation with email, but they don't tend to answer too much. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And on a non-Tesla or Elon note, and it's sort of flying under the radar in general mainstream media, we're going around the moon again in a couple of weeks potentially. When I say we, the human race.
Yes, in the Artemis program.
I don't care so much for the waste of money that it's called SLS, but the fact is, 4 people are going around the moon and back.
In excess of 50 years after it was first done.
Tell me about it. So us Apollo kids, we lost our way for a while, but hopefully we're finding it again thanks to Elon and a few others. Because Blue Origin are doing some good things as well. And there's a couple of others. So it's going to be interesting. Oh, speaking of metals, Astroforge are trying to get their act together for mining stuff.
Yes.
So that's going to be an interesting group. So if you want to put some, I presume you could invest in them at some point, but that would be an interesting company, because if they can pull it off, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, indeed. But
20 years away, probably. But, you know, some of you youngsters here will have that lifespan.
Well, you got him before I was going to be a cheeky bugger, so.
Yeah.
Indeed. Alrighty. Have we got any more down to the ground questions or comments?
Oh, were we going to do our Tesla stock predictions?
Oh.
We don't have
to.
Okay.
All right. No. Yeah, all right. Let's do it. So let me just get a mental note. It's about 1.5 hours in. Okay, so firstly, and I've said this several times, Pete, you lost. It was actually...
Nigel.
It was actually Nigel Farrier that was the least bullish. So his split adjusted share price prediction for the end of 2025 was $833, which Tesla was roughly half of that. But hey, you know, that's okay. It's within the order of magnitude. I think, Pete, you might have been roughly $1,000, I think. But in any case, yeah, Nigel won it. So the question is, and I'm going to go first. What do we? Look, there's no point us trying to speculate what it's going to be in 2030. Although I guess we can give it a crack.
Yeah.
But try and let's just try and work out what the share price might be at the end of this year and at the end of next year. And then, yeah, okay, let's go for, 2030. So I think it'll be $650 at the end of this year. And I think it'll be $850 at the end of next year.
And what about
And-
2030, Harold?
Yeah, what about 2030?
Oh, I got no idea. Let's say, I'm going to say 3,000.
Cool. Can I do mine?
Yes, go, Paul.
I'm bullish. And I'm, praying to Lord Elon, please. So I was saying 880 this year. At the end of this year, I've got till 31st.
Yep.
1250 next year, if my numbers are right. And 3,350 in
Oh.
2030.
Right.
Everything has to work. If it doesn't work, then I'm buggered. So I go back to work.
Okay. Pete.
So I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to say $500 in a year's time.
No. Yeah, okay. End of this year. Yep. End of this year.
Yeah, in 12 months.
500.
Yeah, $500.
The bear. I'll call you
yeah.
the bear from now.
I'm going to say $400 year after.
It goes down.
Down. And
So-
not
so-
because
so
of
you
Tesla, because Tesla doesn't trade in a vacuum. It trades in a market. So this is a macro view. And then I'm going to say $3,500 in 2030.
Right. Okay. Anyone else want to speculate? Nope. Okay. All right. Well, we got three. So good thing is we're on the podium. All three of us will be on the podium at the end of each year.
I'm hoping I win, so we all win.
Yeah, Pete. I'm not a fan of your second year 2027 prediction.
Neither am I.
Well, you could do a Gary Blake and go, well, in that case, I should sell out now. No.
Yeah.
Sorry, you got to sell out end of this year at 500 in order to buy back at 400 next year.
Yeah, but there's a big difference between being right or wrong about stocks and losing or making money. So I'd
That is
rather
true.
I don't care whether I'm right or wrong. I just care about being up or down. So
Yeah, true. Exactly. All right. So we finally got there. So I'll check that at the 1.5 hour mark and keep a note of it.
So I think, Peter, you've got perhaps a sensible view, because if you think about it, you just listen to Elon and take into account his usual timings being a little bit optimistic. If there's a gap between, say, self-driving and Optimus coming online in any meaningful way, if there's a sales drop or a sales stagnation in the Tesla vehicles, the stuff that everybody thinks is coming might just have that little gap, which is where you might get a dip in that period that I think Pete's, that sort of fits that. And if it's another year after that, then people will get bored and will stop investing. They'll shift their money somewhere else. So it's all about what time frame they can deliver that extra value, which is there in what's the word, in foresight, but it's a timing of when it comes on board. So the optimistic will say sooner rather than later, and those less optimistic might say a bit later.
Yeah,
my view. Sorry, I was just to clarify,
and then I'll say.
No worries, thanks, Paul. Just to clarify, my view wasn't to do with Tesla. It wasn't a company, it was more of a top-down view. So my view is that the market corrects, we have a GFC type correction every roughly 17 to 21 years, somewhere in between there. And, last peak was in 2008. So we're coming up, sometime in the next 3 years. Tesla is a high beta stock. I mean, when the Nasdaq moves 1%, Tesla moves 2%. So,
Oh yes, definitely, Pete.
in a GFC type correction, it's hard to see the Nasdaq not dropping at least 50%. In which case, it's not hard to see Tesla dropping 60, 70%. But then it may recover very quickly, or
Yes.
or it may not even drop. Who knows? But the one thing that throws a massive spanner in the works for me was Elon's tweet when he said, or Elon's X post, when he said that he sees US GDP growth in the high single-digit figures over the next year or two, and possibly in double-digit figures after that.
Okay.
And that is just, that's just almost unheard of. That's like you got to go back 100 years,
Yes.
prior to the Industrial Revolution, when you
That-
had that sort of GDP growth
Yeah.
in the US.
But that's because Optimus starts doing all the manufacturing for nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. So, so
Well, and AI also
Yes.
devours many white collar jobs.
well,
Because if you think of the number of people that sit at a computer all day just processing data, in the sense of whether that data be purchase orders, query emails,
Contracts.
payrolls,
imagine reception, payroll, accounting, legal,
Lawyers.
yeah, all those white collar jobs, radiologists, a lot of the medical stuff. Forget surgeons right now. Just putting all that, it's just the white collar kind of jobs.
just the digital jobs.
Yeah, and many of them are just, we're really just sitting at a PC, moving a mouse and a keyboard, doing things.
Yeah.
All of that can be replaced by virtual agents. If not today, maybe not yet, but incrementally that is coming to pass. And maybe the very few survivors in that kind of industry are people whereby one-to-one interaction with humans is important. So, I've got a kid that is an accountant, just a graduate accountant. He might be all right because he works in a branch of tax where he deals with individuals, and they're high net worth individuals, and those people are usually old school, and they will prefer to still have that interaction, even though they could probably just phone in all their stuff and just get it done magically. So there'll still be industries where you still, like a GP will still exist because their main role is to extract information from people or glean information. But many of these jobs will be just destroyed, and it'll be in a matter of years, not decades. And that's going to obviously increase GDP, because how's it go? There's the formula GDP. If you have deflation, I think that in itself increases GDP because it's the ratio of inputs to outputs normalized for inflation. But when it's going negative, it actually, when something is 80% of its cost, you divide by that 80%, which then increases the GDP. I think that's what Elon Musk explained. I'm not an economist, but I think that's correct. So that, because inflation erodes GDP growth, but deflation actually enhances it. So a lot of it might not be actual dollars in the economy. It might be the massive deflationary effect of effectively wiping out a whole lot of wages that makes that service and product so cheap that by definition increases GDP, because it's just a metric. It's not a real number.
But
So maybe that's why Elon Musk is talking about what you're saying, Pete, is seemingly outlandish increases in GDP. It's not necessarily increase in output. It's just a smashing of wages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
But Elon Musk also, when it comes to his comments about economics, he also said that joke about two economists walking through the forest,
yeah, yeah,
and one says to the other one, "I'll give you, what is it, $50? No,
$50.
$100,
$100.
$100 if you eat
$100.
this
Yep.
shit."
Yep.
And so the economist eats it, gets his $100, and then he says back to the other one, he says, "Well, I'll give you $100 now if you eat this shit." And so then they ponder and go, "Well, we've just increased." He said, "Your shit nullifies my shit." So
Yeah, and the money. So they got the same amount of money because one paid 100 to the other, and then vice versa.
correct,
But they
and the
conclude,
payments nullify each other; they offset each
yep,
other. So yeah, because you had plus 100 minus 100, but we've increased GDP by 200%.
Yep.
exactly, by $200. That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
$200. Sorry, yeah.
No.
Yes, exactly. All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify with my projections and stuff. It was all this year. It's about the show me stuff. So they've got to
Yeah.
show me. They've got to ramp up. You know, I was working about 45,000 robo taxis in America. You know, they've got to show robo taxis. Optimus. They've got to show the semi. They've got to get Houston, Texas online. Like all, I've decided to go full blown bullish, and my drop is between 2028 and 2029, and then it'll go back up again, sort of stuff. So, because we said this year, next year, and then 30. So,
2030. Yep.
so that's where I sort of said 3.5 years where everything goes to shit for a little bit. So
And
that's where my note is.
And to clarify, I've never been so bullish on Tesla in terms of the company and what it can produce and what it can, the differences that it can make to the world. And the next 3 years will just be absolutely transformational for the company and possibly the world. But Tesla stock does not trade in a vacuum. It trades in a macro environment. And animal spirits, it all depends. Like we say all the time, like Warren Buffett said, in the short term, it's a popularity contest. It's a voting machine. In the long term, it's a weighing machine. So in the short term, the PE multiples could get absolutely hammered because all of a sudden everyone's bearish because unemployment's up, property prices are falling, everything is down except gold and silver or whatever. In the longer term it'll reverse. So
And of course, it goes without saying that none of what's being said now is any form of financial advice.
No, exactly.
It's just
Absolutely
rank
not.
amateurs just licking their finger and sticking it out in the wind. And that's the whole point. That's the fun of it. So, we had that fun. God, it was nearly 5 years ago. Wildly guessing. And I remember, Pete, I think you were talking about 2 trillion and 20 trillion. I think that must have been your price. I think that must be right. No, maybe it wasn't.
10 trillion, I think, sounds.
Was it 10 by the end of the decade? And I'm not sure what your $1,000 a share price. That must have been 4 trillion or something, or 3 or 4 trillion end of last year.
Suffice to say, we're nowhere near.
No, and actually, also to be fair, for many earnings calls, bearing in mind, just as a quick reminder, we're going to have an earnings call. Well, for us, it's going to be in about 8 hours or so, or 9 hours or whatever, 6:30 in the morning. So there were several earnings calls in some years ago, whereby Elon Musk had projected that Tesla would be at an annual run rate in excess of 20 million cars per annum, and that they sold every single car they could build.
Yep.
And that the limiting factor was the rate at which they could build cars. Now, clearly, in the last 18 months, that's very much not the case. And Tesla has not sold a record amount of cars for quite a while. and it has proven that Tesla can't sell every car they could build because, just look at the Cybertruck. That was projected to there were supposedly 2 million reservations, and yet not even 50,000 Cybertrucks have been built, I don't think, in a couple of years. Or maybe if it is 50,000, it might be barely 50,000. So not everything that Elon Musk says or Tesla states comes to fruition in that form. Now, it might come to pass by the end of the decade, Tesla's run rate is 20 million cars, but that's because of robotaxis, which weren't part of that inclusion back when that statement was made. So Tesla is not a perfect company, and what Tesla or Elon Musk in particular says can actually be different to what happens. However,
Go finish what you're saying.
But however, something that redeems Tesla is just when you think that Tesla was set on a certain path, such as merely making 20 million EVs, because that's what everyone thought the world wanted, they've pivoted so many different ways to energy, to robotaxi, and now to Optimus. I mean, Optimus was only a glint in Elon Musk's eye 3 years ago. And yet, should all the projections that make sense come to pass, that will make everything else look like a rounding error. And yet that wasn't even on Tesla's horizon 10 years ago. That was not that was nothing. And yet that in itself, even if they only capture 10% of the market, will do more will make everything else that Tesla's ever done a rounding error. And was it Jason Calacanis basically said in his opinion, again, he's just one person, said that in time, no one will remember that Tesla used to make cars. It'll just be all about Optimus. So,
two things that have changed that no one could have predicted. No one predicted was the lawsuit against Elon Musk's compensation package. And so, Elon's, objectively, he's a genius, and even people that don't like him agree that he's a genius. He's got 5 or 6 companies and interests. If at one point it looked like he might lose control of Tesla, so you can completely understand why he would have lost interest in putting in the 20 or 30 hours or whatever he does every week into Tesla. So that would have set us back. But the other thing that's happened that no Tesla bull would have expected was the delay in how long it took for FSD supervised or unsupervised FSD to be solved. So for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much solved now, but or it's in the process of being solved. But in the last stage of it being solved, but like Elon Musk said, he doesn't know of anything that's had so many false dawns.
Yep.
So that could have been affected by the fact that maybe Elon took his eye off the Tesla ball because he didn't have the incentive there, and he potentially, not so much in terms of the monetary incentive, but the incentive to have control over the company and voting rights, etc. So those are 2 things that I think are 2 major things that have resulted in Tesla not being a $4 trillion company already.
yeah, indeed. I mean, that according to Tesla a few years ago, it would have been on the trajectory of 3 million cars. Giga Mexico would have been built probably by now, well and truly mostly built. So there are changes occur, but unlike many other Yeah, exactly. And unlike many other companies, Tesla is actually more diversified than people realize because they have lots of fingers in lots of pies, and it only takes one or two of those pies to come into fruition to create a lot of value. And like I said, Optimus, the great thing about Elon Musk is he is insistent on falling back to the fundamentals of physics and not just, he doesn't just read an RS catalog and go, we're going to buy these actuators off the shelf and we're going to get a tier one supplier and we're just going to cobble together something and that'll be good enough. He doesn't phone in his innovations. He insists on minimizing what he calls the idiot index, which is the ratio of the cost of the material in its raw form to the finished product. And the higher that ratio, in other words, the more it costs to transform that product to something useful, the more of an idiot you are because you're not clever enough to do it at a lower cost. So he always insists on using the laws of physics as the true limit of what can be achieved. But he wants to achieve just slightly worse than the laws of physics. And that's a great aspiration, and it's proven him in good stead. And like I said, he's been ambitious. We need to make as many batteries as the entire world. All right, let's just work out how big that plant is and let's just get it built and fund it and whatever. The same as he still seems to be insistent that, we need to build a microchip fabrication plant that probably has a similar output as the rest of the world. So, and we need to build an Optimus with the best robot ever conceived. And yeah, data centers to space. That was just outlandish when, a kilogram used to cost $10,000 to haul up into space. So it's certainly going to be interesting times ahead. All right, we're basically towards the end of the program. So got any closing questions or comments? Anyone? No? Okay. Alrighty. So, Pete, how would you round out an awesome show like this as if I didn't already know?
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable. Looking forward to the earnings call tomorrow morning and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join Tokwa, listen to the earnings call stream and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy and abundance. Have a wonderful week, everyone, and I really do look forward to seeing you on next week's episode of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. Good night, everyone.
See you guys.
No,